At this time, it's my pleasure to invite our second senior speaker to the podium, Elizabeth Lee.
Thank you, parents, faculty, Board of Trustees, graduates, and administrators for gathering here to celebrate the class of 2024. And thank you so much for giving me the immense honor of speaking before you today. And a very special thank you to Dr. Lawrence and Mr. Riley for helping me craft this speech. Sing in me, muse, and through me, tell the story of that man skilled in all ways of contending, the wanderer, harried for years on end, after he plundered the stronghold on the proud height of Troy. It is fitting that the first line of the first book that we read together as Trinity students begins one of the greatest epics in history, Homer's Odyssey. Because on the corner of 91st and Columbus, past security and up 3 flights of stairs, there are 15 desks forming a squarish U. And it's at those desks that we're debating about Julius Caesar, or Okonkwo, or Gatsby. And we all agree that it was Macbeth's pride that was his downfall, and that Jane Eyre should have left Mr. Rochester. But we haven't quite reached a consensus about Holden's morality. And there's a lull in the conversation, and someone randomly says that we're on our own hero's journey, just like Odysseus. And everyone laughs because it's terribly cliche, but maybe, secretly, we agree. Because weren't the surprise reading quizzes just like the constant storms that Odysseus and his crew weathered? And weren't the senior skits kind of like when Odysseus created a Trojan horse to win the Battle of Troy? And wasn't the slow water fountain on the 3rd floor of the new building like when Odysseus' crew wallowed in the doldrums before facing Scylla and Charybdis? And we're going through this intense journey of self-discovery together, so maybe we're more of a Telemachus figure than an Odysseus. But either way, we're heroes. I see Lizzie Bennett in those class discussions, the hyper ones, when everyone's jumping in and adding on without raising their hands, because we're just so in sync. See her when I watch the jazz band, or the latest comp sci project, or step into the art room. The passion that we have, the love of exploration, is so invigorating. I see Nick Carraway when we just feel each other's presence. At retreat, when we're singing together around a campfire, the energy in the swamp. There's so much love being shared, so many moments of intense joy, the type of joy that you carry home and smile about hours later when you're alone. I see Antigone in the student advocacy, political and social, the way we're mentors to the younger grades, the determination and bravery that we have. I see George Milton and Lenny Small in the attentive listening from the audience to the vulnerability shown in senior speeches. Feel them when I hear "Let the River Run." There's so much support given here. We built a community, a second home, where we can nurture and share all of our ambitions and hopes and expectations. Whether we recognized it or not, on that first day of freshman year, we all knew that something about the next 4 years of our lives would be special, that something about Trinity might even make us special, worthy of our own epic. It could have been the societal worship of the high school experience, or the knowledge that at the end of our high school journey, we would be adults. But when we logged onto Zoom for that first time for grade bonding, it felt as if something monumental should have shifted. Is it bad that it didn't? The first day jitters were the same as last year's, and everyone seemed new and shiny, but not any more new and shiny than humanly conceivable, and the gravity of our first day of high school could not quite overshadow the gravity of a global pandemic. Our high school experience could potentially be defined as a series of stumbling beginnings. The awkward freshman year orientation icebreakers that substituted Trinity's traditional square dancing because you can't easily do-si-do in Zoom breakout rooms. The pouring rain as we picked up trash in the park our first day of sophomore year. The buses that never showed our first day of junior year. It's as if the higher powers that be wanted us to fail, or worse, didn't care about us at all. Odysseus had Athena advocating for his freedom from Poseidon's wrath at Mount Olympus. We had angry calls with bus companies. But now I know everyone's favorite ice cream flavor and the etymology of their names. And while we were picking up trash, we bonded over counting the condoms we found. The amount is somehow more than and less than what you would think. And when the buses didn't come, we were dismissed early, and we went to see a movie, or get lunch, or just talk together. And those less than stellar beginnings gave way to the stories that would make our Odyssey. We bonded in battle, just like Odysseus and his men, in the trenches, combating procrastination and peer-induced panic while writing our junior history papers. Avoided Poseidon's wine-dark sea while sneaking out of advisory to grab coffee from the cafeteria. Practiced Xenia-level hospitality by hosting lavish feasts using the mini-mester budget. We lured thousands of sailors to their demise with the beautiful music of the orchestra, pled our case to the gods while performing in the Shakespeare competition, pulled a senior prank worthy of Circe's approval before Hermes intervened because maybe moving all of the desks and turning the swamp into casino and bar was a little much. Spent too much time on the island of the Lotus Eaters during senior spring before learning the whole math unit during the ad hoc before the test in the math lab. And I'm running out of events from the Odyssey to reference, but I'd be remiss to not mention Senior Sunset, that advisory scavenger hunt from sophomore year, affinity group dinners, bookends, 100 different luncheon runs, Birch Peaky and planchette runs, debate tournaments, ice skating, writing on the math class windows even though it's extremely impractical because it looks cool, the clubs that we revived and the clubs that we killed, exploring the renovated Morse Theater and performing in the renovated Morse Theater, painting on the art classroom walls, jam sessions in the band room, dressing up for a school chapel, the times the bowl tone was perfect in chapel, and the times the candle snuffing was messed up, but everyone chuckled. Boundless adventures, getting single-digit scores in bowling, the talented athletes, and those of us who did walk in the park for our PE credit. I was speaking with a friend from outside of Trinity, and he read the same books as us, and had the same music playing at the same parties, and chanted the same idioms at the same sports games, and I began to ask myself the question that no one wants to ask, but everyone has to eventually, which is, are we even special? It feels as though we have this big expectation to live up to. We attend an over 300-year-old institution, a school that has produced scholars and scientists and generally important people, and probably will continue to produce scholars and scientists and generally important people. And yet it is at this very place that we failed quizzes and embarrassed ourselves by pronouncing a word wrong and done all the mortifying yet banal things that teenagers across the world experience every day. And don't get me wrong, I love the quote mundane. I love that month when chess had a resurgence and you couldn't walk into the library without seeing swarths of people huddled around a board. I love losing baseball games, winning volleyball games, lifesavers from the math lab, under-toasted bagels grabbed in the 5-minute break during our physics double. I will never be able to eat a tomato mozzarella sandwich without being taken back to freshman year lunch on the turf when our only physical connection was throwing oranges back and forth at each other. But did Odysseus ever get hit in the face with an orange? Maybe not, but Holden was potentially the worst fencing team manager in history. And Hamlet stumbled, unguarded and down-jived to his ankle in front of his lover/situationship. And I won't even get into Oedipus's love life because we're in a holy space. So maybe, if they can accept their little moments of humiliation, we can too. And I'm not saying that we're all like the protagonists we read about in school. After all, I just took the seminar Bible as Literature, and I'm pretty sure that comparing myself to Jesus is blasphemy. However, all of these individuals, these heroes and anti-heroes we love, were just people. People who went on great adventures, but also people who embarrassed themselves and were bored and were sometimes sad while doing so. The end of high school is undeniably a milestone, but as we reflect back on our time together, I don't think about the countdown to adulthood or the fact that our parents will be empty nesters. I think about how we'll never get another Astrophysics Friday email, that we'll never sing Chosen Family again. And we'll keep in touch, but we'll never have each other as sticker tag targets. And for a while, that disappointed me. It's difficult to reconcile this momentous occasion being the culmination of quiet and loud days, occasional hell weeks, inside jokes, and 1,000 little things. But maybe we just need to embrace the stories we've created. After all, Odysseus earned his passage home through being an interesting enough guest at the Phaeacians' dinner party. I can't give a definitive answer to the question I posed, but if we've learned anything from our years at Trinity, it's how to write a thesis. So here's mine, 9th grade formula and all. While it seems as though, in order to be heroic, in order to be special, we must always be performing grand gestures or fighting great battles. In reality, we are heroes because we built a community, day by day, class period by class period, by living our authentic stories together. So whether we go on to build rockets, or go into finance, which I know none of us will, or work at an art gallery, or as a teacher, and whether we were quiet students, or a little too obnoxious in the quiet section of the library, we're absolutely perfect. We were exactly who we needed to be, and will continue to be so. We didn't need to prove ourselves through grand adventures, although in many ways we did, blinding Cyclops and finishing history papers at 11:58, ignoring siren songs and rushing from the 16th Street station to make it in time for this morning's class photo. The Odyssey ends with the reunion of Odysseus, Telemachus, and Laertes, 3 generations together in Ithaca before they go on separate journeys. And here we are in Riverside Church, students, faculty, family, friends, coming together one final time. So before we go off on our own separate journeys, I want you to know that I am so endlessly proud of all that we are and all that we will continue to be. Thank you so much for being the best 4 years of my life.